and daily rental needs of individuals and business throughout St. Louis. Enterprise, the special delivery company. Join Channel 9 for the Peter, Paul, and Mary-a-thon. First at 6, it's Peter, Paul, and Mommy, a concert event for the whole family. Then at 8:30, it's an encore presentation of the Peter, Paul, and Mary 25th Anniversary Concert. Don't miss the Peter, Paul, and Mary-a-thon, beginning Saturday at 6 on Channel 9. Is healing related to the mind? What role does it play in the recovery from illness? Can thoughts and feelings influence your health? Bill Moyers travels the globe to examine these questions and more with the hope of better understanding the amazing relationship between our minds and our health. Join us for 8 hours of this critically acclaimed series, beginning Sunday at 2 on Channel 9. Learn how to have a positive effect on the development of your child with Dr. Barry Brazelton, Saturday, beginning at 1:55 on Channel 9.
That seems fair to me.
Fairness isn't the issue.
Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it just
At Mark Twain, we take a slightly different approach to business loans. We make them.
Mark Twain Banks, because strength matters.
Mark Twain Bank is proud to sponsor Channel 9's production of Donnybrook. Mark Twain is committed to making business loans to create local jobs and to serving the greater St. Louis community with a complete range of banking and financial services. Mark Twain Banks, because strength matters.
You're back on Donnybrook on a steamy Thursday, August 12th. And if that doesn't grab you, you can look forward to tomorrow, Friday the 13th. But meanwhile, we have with us tonight Ann Keefe, our celebrated commentator from KMOX Radio, and the world-famous author about to go on vacation. That's why I'm saying that, Bill McClellan, columnist for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and Ray Hartman, editor-publisher of the Riverfront Times, and Rich Coster of KSDK News Channel 5. Ann Keefe, I'm sure you, along with everybody else in America, have about had it with the flood. But of course, we pay tribute to President Clinton for having come to St. Louis today to sign the flood relief appropriation bill and to pay credit to people who performed heroic acts. Would you agree with that appraisal of today's events?
I think it'd be pretty shabby, Martin, for all of us to be fed up with the flood when there are victims who haven't even started to fight their way back into life again.
You're right about that. I meant no slight to them, of course.
And what I found disturbing, I think, was that the president came here today. Now, of course, he could have signed that bill in the Rose Garden or in his office or on the plane if he wanted to. I think it was a wonderful gesture to come here. And the same people criticized it as criticized George Bush for running around in his motorboat while we were getting into the war in Iraq. So there's some people you can never please. But what disturbed me the most, I think, today was people looked at television. Now, the television screen is very proscribed. It shoots whatever the cameraman chooses to shoot. And people were saying, the mayor wasn't there. Why wasn't Senator Danforth there? And I said, are you sure he wasn't? Yes, he wasn't there because he wasn't on the television screen. What frightens me is that we're going to have a whole group of people, and all of us, are going to make our lives decisions based on what we saw on television screen.
Hey, and that's only 4 inches. Those are 26 inches.
I know,
big screen.
Big screen.
Right? And some people have those entertainment centers.
But you know what I'm saying?
Well, if they didn't see it you're likely to miss somebody,
yeah,
right?
If they didn't see him on the screen, they assume people were not there,
right.
and then that spins out. The president was discriminating against the mayor.
Let me give our audience an example. When I walked into the studio today, the operator handed me a note saying that President Clinton did not acknowledge Mayor Bosley's presence and so forth. So I called Mayor Bosley's office. I said, was the mayor there today? Yes. Was he pleased with the reception he got from the president? The answer is yes. So, I mean, you're absolutely right.
Well,
these rumors...
But the president didn't acknowledge him when he was naming people from the podium. I didn't hear the name Bosley.
Well, yeah, but he was talking about the people who had sponsored and supported flood relief.
Oh, no, he thanked Gebhardt and Talent and a lot of people involved.
And not Mayor Bosley?
But Mayor Bosley's not in Congress. Mayor Bosley did not vote for the flood package.
Hey, the city of St. Louis was a big factor in this flood bill.
Yeah, I know, but we're saying
a little bit. I mean,
Clinton said something like, I want to thank everybody who helped with the flood bill. And that does not include the mayor
and
of St. Louis.
the other thing that he did, and you said you heard otherwise, he went by Jim Talent the way a sprinter runs in the Olympics. I mean, he went from this person over to Mrs. Gebhardt like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, yeah. Now, dude, what, you time? You have a stopwatch? I mean, aren't you splitting hairs a little bit here? I mean, I understood he was nice to Talent. I mean, you know, come on. That's this, you know, it's so typical.
He was nice to Mrs. Gebhardt.
No, I had complaints on the radio that he was much too friendly with Jim Talent, and he shouldn't have been, because Talent was the one who opposed the bill.
And
now
was a
you're
bad
telling
rap.
me
Everybody knows
that's
that.
right. So he can't
Gebhardt
win.
is the one who delayed action on the flood bill.
I'll stand with what I said about Talent, which is I think that he should have been out front fighting for flood aid in his district instead of voting with his party. But that doesn't mean that Bill Clinton has any right or reason
come on,
to hold it against. Well, it's over.
You make promises to your constituency, and then when you get in office, if something comes up that looks better politically, you drop your promises.
No, I said, I'll say it.
It's hardly the time.
I was going to say, I think Jim Talent could have done better, but I'll say this. Bill Clinton had no business, and I don't think he did, hold it against him as a grudge on an ongoing basis. They've got to move ahead.
You know, I would disagree. From what I heard on the radio, he wasn't rude to Talent. I mean, he acknowledged Talent. But if the president wanted to hold a grudge against somebody who voted against one of his bills,
absolutely.
Yeah, but you're still going to be civil to him, and I think he was.
All right, but the thing is that this was like the summit. This was a public relations.
Oh, come on, Costa. You say that every time he shows up.
Sign, that's right. He could
Costa,
sign this in the Oval Office. He was going from Washington to Denver. He had to fly over St. Louis. He figured, let's lay in there and try to pick up some points.
Costa, you're so nice to the guy. If he stays in Washington in the Rose Garden, you jump all over him because he's sequestered and he doesn't care about people.
The guy has become a figure of sympathy. People voted for that budget plan because they were sorry for him. If that's not the worst idea to vote for a budget, they didn't want to. Kerry said, I don't want to ruin your presidency. I'm sorry for you.
Rich, Bill Clinton was elected to do certain things. One of them, whether you like it or not, was to reverse Reaganomics and Bushonomics, whatever you call it, and voodoo economics. He ran for office on higher taxes on the rich.
Are you telling me that he has lived up to his promises in the campaign?
I will say this. In the general sense of things, I think there's a lot of specific promises where he went too far on specifics. In general, Bill Clinton has lived up to his promises on social issues, on his Supreme Court appointment, on a whole lot of
I think this guy is
no
performing.
filibustering on this program. We're going on to something else. But what really struck me as curious is that the president went from Henry VIII to visit Pope John Paul II in Denver. That tended to blow my mind. I'll say this, that if I had to ride with Pat Schroeder on an airplane from Washington to Denver, I'd probably want to behave like Henry VIII myself.
And you're a champion of women.
That's right. I am
that's chivalrous.
very chivalrous. Hey, let's go on to Rich Coster. St. Louis Police Chief Clarence Harmon, in advance of President Clinton's crime-busting bill, got really aroused this week. He said that in effect, he had it with the senseless killings in the city. A 12-year-old girl was wantonly gunned down and 7 other people wounded in an incident involving 5 teenagers. And the police confiscated an arsenal from these teenagers afterwards. What do you make of this? I mean, the homicide rate is accelerated beyond our record?
No, not beyond, but the homicide rate right now would take us to about 250 for the year. And I think the record's 270. A year or two ago was 265. So it's very close to the worst year in the past 20 or so. But I don't think that Harmon went as far as he would have liked to have gone. What he's saying is, hey, you can have 1 million police out there. You can't solve this unless some people get responsible. Some parents have to know if their kids have guns, and I'll go further than that, they have to know where their kids are. And the 12-year-old that was shot the other night, that was at 12:45. There's a law in this community. You're not supposed to be out at that age after 10:30.
Of course, she was in front of her home, right?
Well, the thing, well, wait a minute.
Well,
I'm sorry for her family, but the thing is, the problem is the parents. The parents have got to start enforcing some discipline.
Whoa. That's a little inhumane, I think. I mean, we're talking about. Wait a minute.
We still have a curfew. That's fine.
Excuse me, though. I will agree. What Clarence Harmon has done eloquently since he's been police chief, that not all police chiefs do, is he has consistently talked about the broader social issues, one of which police work police work falls into that, but there's a lot bigger issues, and I agree with you on that. But it's very unfair to take this particular family and imply that they did anything wrong because somebody was on the front porch at 12:45, Rich. I don't think that's fair at all.
The thing is that if kids were off the street at 10:30, I'll bet 80% of these teenage killings would never happen. All they got to do is obey the law.
That's a little bit simplistic, Rich. I mean, you're talking about
the law. For you, that's simplistic.
Well, Rich, if we're talking about kids who go around with AK-47s and shoot at people, it's kind of a stretch to say, well, they ought to obey the curfew law.
Yeah,
I mean, if they won't obey the law not to shoot people, you know,
don't blame the people who are on the front porch.
No, but you guys would be all upset if it were enforced, you see.
Exactly.
These people ought to be off the streets, and you wouldn't have near the problem.
I wouldn't be upset if the curfew was
I
enforced.
think the hue and cry, I think Rich is right. The hue and cry in this community, if you started gathering up kids on the street after 10 o'clock or 10:30 or whatever it is, or if you started picking up people with AK-14s or whatever it was the kid had, you'd have the same amount of complaints. Well, they'd say that's racist, that's elitist, that's disgusting.
Well, I have the sense that Harmon's new initiative, I just have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of that. I think we're going to see a lot of car stops, a lot of pedestrian stops, because if you want to get the guns off
the street. And this one will say that's harassment.
And I think there are going to be a lot of cries.
You think there should be?
Hold on a minute, but let's not presume.
Would you support it?
Would
if a policeman stopped you at random, driving along in your Colombo car, and didn't know who you were, but just asked you who you were and so on and so forth, I mean, would you be annoyed at that?
I like to think I wouldn't be. I like to think I wouldn't be.
Have you ever been stopped by the police?
Not for a good purpose.
Just to be asked a question? I have.
First of all, I think there is a question of probable cause. I don't think the issue... Well, hold on a minute. I don't think the issue, though, is whether they're going to stop cars or not. I think one of the presumptions you're making when you talk about parents' responsibility, which is very nice, is the assumption that parents are, in fact, there and that these homes have two parents or even one parent around. And I don't think to focus on taking the victims off the street is not the solution we need. We've got to do something about the gun control, which Clinton, to his credit, talk about wasteful domestic spending. It's one of the kind of things Clinton is talking about, serious billions for more police and for gun control. And I think we've got to move in that direction. But Carmen is right that you've got to look at broader social issues, and it's not enough simply to say parents got to do that.
But Ray, that's all so far down the road. I mean, when you talk about we've got to look at broader social issues.
Yeah, it's poverty.
That's I mean, you know, the poor have always been with us. I mean, what people want to do, they want to do something about the crime on the street. They don't want to think that, well, 30 years from now we can eradicate poverty.
But Clinton's doing what
every household on every block is responsible for those people who live there. You're not going to have these problems.
That's not
true, Rich.
Well, it ought to happen. Why shouldn't it happen?
It's the guys with the AK-47s.
I can't control the city because if you people don't control yourselves.
We hold no one responsible, that's why. And when you say poverty is a cause of crime, I resent that. There are millions of people in this country who are far more poor than city people. They have no welfare resources, they have no hospitalization, and they're not killing each other.
I never said poverty was a cause of crime.
Just
no, I didn't. I did not. I said there are broader...
I said poverty, and you said that's one of them.
Excuse me, I said there's broader social issues. One of the social issues is the disintegration of the family unit in the city. And Harmon, I am not arguing with you that people have to take more responsibility, but to sit here and say, well, that's the answer, tell people to take more responsibility, it is not the answer.
It's a better answer than 50,000 more cops in the country.
No, excuse me.
It won't happen, though, Rich. It won't happen.
Rich, I don't think you
Well, then you got to enforce the laws and penalize the people who don't obey them.
Rich, there are a bunch of answers, none of which is... they're all necessary but not sufficient.
One of them is more
cops.
Listen, the sociologists have had 25 years to figure this out, and they have failed. They have failed in prisons, and they've failed in urban areas. Maybe it's time for a new regime.
Teenagers who have high-powered arsenals are not the victims of poverty. They're the victims of having too much, and much of it from drug money. Bill McClellan, let's turn back to the flood for a moment because of this angle. Businessmen in Chesterfield, a good many of them, that is, are angry because they feel that that they weren't warned sufficiently about a possible break in the levee. May have a point there. But some of them did not meet the deadline for buying insurance. As though, hey, here's the water coming, let's go out and buy the insurance is the impression that was given. Am I right? And if so, how do you feel about these people?
My impression, too. Well, you know, maybe the government should make everybody good who gets caught in a flood, even if you have your business in a floodplain. And if the government wants to do that, no problem. But to me, this idea that one buys flood insurance as the water's coming over the levee, and then the government regulations are you have to have it 5 days before the flood hits you. It's sort of like if my neighbor's house is on fire and all of a sudden the flames are coming to my house, and I say, well, I think I'll get fire insurance. I mean, and I'm not saying the government shouldn't make these people good, but it doesn't seem like an insurance
This is the humor columnist talking now. The water didn't come over the levee. The water came through the levee.
Okay, the water came
but
through
they
the
didn't
levee.
know that that levee was going to break, Bill. And when they got very fearful, then they did go out and buy insurance. And obviously they should have done it long before. But to say that they shouldn't collect because that levee collapsed, that's a government levee. It's a
No, Chesterfield, not. Private.
And by the time they bought it,
Up to federal standards.
the story was that the levee might go. I mean, there were problems with the levee, and that's kind of a strange time to buy
Well,
flood
it's going to
insurance.
take us a long, long time to settle this, of course. But Annie and Keith, you've expressed yourself on the. Are you in favor generally of a? If we're going to make any errors on it, would it be on the side of generosity to flood victims rather than to say, hey,
Listen,
take care of yourselves?
Those are the rules. It's the silly government we got to look at one more time. It is a government insurance policy, and if they say 5 days, Bill, okay, why would I do anything but wait till 5 days and then take a chance on it? The fact is there's no money in that fund, by the way, because only, what, 17% of the people in flood areas buy it. So there's no money in there. So it's going to come out of taxpayers' pockets, and we've got to readjust that flood insurance. You're absolutely right. It's insane, but it's a government policy.
This is
Quickly,
really
Ray
interesting to
Hartman.
me. Well, we all, I think, are going to agree that ultimately, as Bill said, the government's going to have to make these people whole. I mean, they're going to have to.
half.
Well, they're going to have to help.
And with loans,
Well,
not grants. Let's be
whatever.
clear
But
about
the
that.
government is going to have to spend it. Now, if it's somebody else's program, if it isn't St. Louis, and we don't know all the people, and we don't see the suffering, this is wasteful domestic spending. The problem is, when you start talking about domestic spending, we're seeing an illustration of what government spending is. We can trash government all we want, but when we need it, we want it, and we want it now.
But
and
we
I think it's
also
interesting.
see an incident of stupid government management in this insurance company, and that's what people are angry about. It isn't the help, it's the way they deliver.
People always look at stupid government, and in fact, they've, you know, for example, in South City, people are mad at the fire department, and they're mad it's in South County. I think the fire department in St. Louis did itself proud with this propane thing.
Right, well,
no one got hurt. But I'm saying, but I'm saying there's been a lot of good government to go with all the bad government.
Right. And we've given credit, or attempted to, on this program, as a matter of fact. Ray, I want to talk to you about something else. United States Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas is coming to St. Louis soon. He's going to be a guest of the Missouri Bar Association. And as you know, he is a former St. Louisan. He worked as an assistant under Attorney General Jack Danforth, now Senator, and he worked at Monsanto. I mean, St. Louis has a right to be proud of Clarence Thomas as a former St. Louisan. But certain black lawyers are going to snub him. And I think that's rather discourteous. Don't you think they ought to be proud of him and welcome him?
I don't see what's discourteous. First of all, they're happy that he is a former St. Louisan, perhaps, but I mean, they have every right. I think those people who feel, I've certainly one, who feels that he has been a terrible Supreme Court justice, and they feel that he has, in their case, they feel he's betrayed their interests. If they want to express that by boycotting, I don't think it's discourteous at all. You don't have many chances to communicate with a Supreme Court justice.
Give me an example of a terrible decision that he
What
made.
terrible decision has he rendered?
Well, I think he's clearly, in my opinion, he's anti-choice. I think that's bad. I think he's anti-affirmative action, which I think from his particular vantage point is particularly annoying to a lot of people, and I don't blame them for feeling that way. I mean, the list goes on. He's been against almost any civil liberties issue that's come up, free speech issues.
Well, what about
He's on the wrong
civility
side.
when it applies to civil liberties?
I'm not suggesting anybody be uncivil to him, but they don't want to attend his thing. And in the case of the Mountain City Bar Association, they've declined simply to hold a reception for him.
You know,
I don't think that's uncivil.
I agree with Ray that it's not uncivil. A matter of fact, it's sort of what in an ideal world where race isn't the #1 issue, where you look at what a person believes in, and the fact that Clarence Thomas is black, if the black lawyers don't want to hold a party for him, terrific.
Yeah, I don't know how, I mean, I think all that stuff Ray was spouting, that's irrelevant. If they don't like the guy for any reason, why should they throw a party for him?
You're absolutely right. On the other hand, let's turn it around. Let's say it's a group of white lawyers, and he is coming to address lawyers, and they choose not to invite him to a party.
Same thing.
What would be in the newspapers then? What would the public be saying then?
I don't know, but as far as I'm concerned,
They snubbed a Supreme Court justice, and they did it because he's black.
Oh, I don't
right?
think that would be the way.
Well, no, that's
Come
a good
on,
political
of course it
issue.
would be.
I don't
think it's
see
the way he
anything
would play it
wrong
off.
with it at all.
I don't think.
Well, let's go on to something else, since you people are in such solid agreement on being discourteous to a distinguished gentleman like Clarence Thomas. I'm ashamed of your attitude. Ann Keefe, it doesn't mean an awful lot because the FAA is not presently hiring people, but it happens that President Clinton, in effect today, has granted amnesty to the air controllers who were fired by President Ronald Reagan because they struck against what he considered to be the public interest. Do you think President Clinton ought to do this, reinstate these people?
Absolutely. I think, if nothing else, it says, I don't believe in the same kind of death penalty that Ronald Reagan believes in. As a union person, to tell people that not only have you fired them at the moment, but for all perpetuity was the most outrageous, unconstitutional piece of ruling I've ever heard.
You know what
of.
this is like? This is so silly. This is like the baseball reinstating shoeless Joe Jackson. These people are so long out of the business that they probably clank when they go in from rest.
But
you want those people up in the tower?
Rich, I'll tell you what is the silliest.
Justifying.
You talk out of both sides of your mouth. Bill Clinton was elected for no other reason to undo a lot of what had been done the previous 12 years. That's exactly why he was elected. You may not like it, Martin, because you didn't vote for him, but the fact is he was elected to change things. He was elected to change things on social issues, on domestic spending,
Mostly
and a lot of
what
things
he
he's
does
doing
is
it.
change his mind, right?
No,
Mostly
Rich,
that's what he does.
he has done exactly what he said he would
says
do
one thing and he
about
does another
tax
if he
policy,
can.
domestic spending,
Ray,
social
he's
issues.
done
This is one of the
nothing at
things.
all in
Yes,
6
he
months.
has.
Ray, you know the old joke, they
come
wanted
on,
change
Rich.
and they're lucky to get any change after his huge
Come on, the
tax bill
conservatives
has been
kept saying
passed.
how much Reagan and Bush were going to do for them. They did nothing about the social issues. This man took the bull by the horns, offended people about gays, offended them about abortion, offended them about...
Oh, he has done that. He's offended people, but he's not got any...
He's making change.
Yeah, he's only offended the people who are against those particular
That's
issues.
right.
Related to the election.
But he's not improved the gay situation.
Yes,
much.
he
He has
has.
not improved any of these situations, and even this bill, which
Wait a
even
minute.
Democrats are against, doesn't really do much.
Rich,
But he's trying. The other presidents gave mouth platitudes, and everybody loved them, and they didn't even try to change
let me take an example. For 12 years, we had anti-abortion presidents. He's come in and done away with the gag rule. That's a fact. He's changed a lot of federal regulations regarding abortion, and he's appointed a pro-choice justice to the Supreme Court. Are you saying that's nothing? How can you say that's nothing, Ray?
Hey.
It's very, very little.
That's a lot.
Rich,
He hasn't been in
I'm
for
Rich,
very long.
That's Ray.
Sometimes I get you guys confused.
Watch.
Hey,
Let's not confuse people
so
on
far
this
you can
show.
go with an
Guess
insult.
what? Hey, I want to bring you an update. Have any of you ridden light rail? I know our celebrity here,
I
Bill
have.
McClellan, wrote on a press preview, right?
Yes, sir.
Rich Coster, have you ridden?
I have not been on it.
Ann Keefe, have you ridden light rail?
No.
Ray Hartman,
Rode it to the ballgame.
you did?
Yeah.
From where to where?
Actually, just from Union Station to the ballgame, but it wasn't.
Union Station to the ballgame? You could have walked there.
No, I could have.
Faster than light rail.
Hey, I want
you to know.
You think that counts?
I want you to know.
I
Now, wait a
got on,
minute.
I got off, I was
Wait a
happy.
minute. Am I right, Rich Coster, that Bi-State gave the impression this week that the police and the fire department are going to have to use dogs and fire hoses to control the crowds wanting to get on light rail? Did you get that
Well, they
impression?
said they had 200,000 people, and I think that number is probably going to go up.
I think
I'll
Rich,
tell you something.
Rich and I can accept your
I-
apologies now, or
I
you do
wrote
later.
it today, maiden voyage.
Did you?
From the University of Missouri St. Louis to Union Station and return.
They needed
It
dogs
wasn't all
for
that bad. I want to tell you this. It beat Six Flags.
Hey, are you retracting
And,
your position
no,
on
I'm
light
not.
rail?
But as a once-in-a-lifetime experience, I say it wasn't all that bad.
It wasn't that
The
bad.
car going down was cold. The one coming back was hot.
Did you
The
need
people I
police
know who've been
protection?
riding it like it.
All right.
I know
But
somebody.
I'm going to tell you
It'll
this.
pay
The
for itself.
ridership is greatly exaggerated for this reason. And I can give you time to. I kept score on who got on, who got off.
Oh, shoot.
And it
This
is not
a
heavily...
scientific survey. You're saying the ridership is exaggerated because you were on one car two
Yeah.
times?
Hey,
Yeah.
Mark, how many crimes?
Random.
Hey, well, how many crimes did you see? Is that how you
Would that be
make
your
zero?
other
Hey, let's go on to something else. Bill McClellan. Corporal McClellan, have I got it right?
Corporal McClellan.
Honorably discharged from the United States Marine Corps. Tell an old staff sergeant, do you think that the Commandant, General Mundy, has got himself confused with the Pope? It seems that the Commandant wants a celibate, unmarried Marine Corps, and he's been overruled by the Defense Secretary. What do you think of that?
Well, in defense of the Commandant, Martin, he didn't want a celibate Marine Corps, just an unmarried Marine Corps.
Well, that implies celibacy. The Marine Corps, Semper Fidelis, morality.
Oh, yeah.
To
Always
me,
faithful.
I mean, The Commandant's in charge of the Marine Corps, and if he thinks that it would be better off with the fellas being single...
Well, seriously, what do you think about the idea?
He's married.
I thought...
Huh?
Yeah, I thought that the point he made, that as the force got smaller and more of the people are deployed overseas, that it's harder and harder on marriages, and when marriages are going bad, people tend to obsess about it.
You got a good point there, hasn't he?
Sense, yeah.
It's a good idea in a society that won't accept it. I mean, it's not a whole lot different from the Pope saying, I'm not going to let you come into the church if you're married.
Wait, I think that
As a priest.
I think that men and women.
That's my point.
I think married men and women are quite capable to decide for themselves what's right for them in their marriage, and that we ought to, in a voluntary military, which we all want, I think we should be glad to get qualified, eager people to sign up, and we shouldn't be making moral value judgments for them.
I have another spin on it.
Okay.
I think the reason they're doing this is they don't want to pay any more Army retirements. There are a lot of armed service retirements. There are a lot of stories lately about how much it costs to take somebody
To
who
support a
chooses
family,
to
you mean?
say, no, after they retire, they're in the service 20 years. So this way we can get them all out in 5 years. You take them in
No,
married,
on the contrary,
and
they
if
want
they
them
want
to
to get
re-enlist,
married,
and re-enlistments
they
are
go.
down because of marriage problems. You know, on that note, I think we'll have to check out the old Donnybrook poll. Last week's question was, should families collect damages from the Cliff Cave tragedy? And a mere 22% of you thought yes. And we thank you. And now let's look at the mailbag. To take children into an underground cave near and during the worst flood of the century is not only negligent, it's gross negligence. And that's an observation from Mary Ellen Whitelaw of De Pere, and we thank her. Apparently, Ray Hartman does not think liberal arguments about likelihood of rehabilitation, probabilities of recidivism, and the influences of environment should apply to the L.A. police officers involved in the Rodney King incident. An interesting observation from Daniel D. Phillips of St. Louis, and we thank him. Ian Keefe need not fret over U.S. District Judge George Gunn commanding the St. Louis School Board to purchase land near the Science Center. Obeying and ratifying court orders and rulings are not among the board's top priorities. And that's a note from Betty J. Carrington of Clayton, and we thank her. Remember, your views are always welcome on Donnybrook. So write to us, care of Channel 9, 6996, Millbrook Boulevard, St. Louis, Missouri, 63130. Please make note of a program change. Next Thursday night, Donnybrook will be on for an hour-long special starting at 7 o'clock, at which time we expect to have as our special guest Harper Barnes, critic-at-large of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Hope to see you then, and until then, for Donnybrook, I'm Martin Dugan. Good night.
At Mark Twain, we take a different approach to business loans. We make them.
Mark Twain Banks, because strength matters.
Mark Twain Bank is proud to sponsor Channel 9's production of Donnybrook. Mark Twain is committed to making business loans to create local jobs and to serving the greater St. Louis community with a complete range of banking and financial services. Mark Twain Banks, because strength matters.
If you would like a VHS copy of this program, call 1-800-468-1806.
Join Channel 9 for the Peter, Paul, and Mary-a-thon, a concert event for the whole family. First at 6, it's Peter, Paul, and Mommy. Sing along with your kids as Peter, Paul, and Mary perform a timeless repertoire of children's songs. Then at 8:30, it's Peter, Paul, and Mary 25th Anniversary Concert. In this encore presentation, the world's most famous folk music trio celebrates 25 years together. Don't miss the Peter, Paul, and Mary-a-thon, beginning Saturday at 6 on Channel 9. Explore the mystery of